And we welcome you into another edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show. And those astute observers on Facebook will recognize that this is not the Dear Goon. Sitting next to me, this is Landon Tangwall filling in for the Dear Goon, who we think is just succumbing to allergies. And I will say it has been a rough week on the allergy front for yours truly. I really thought I was like getting some kind of crazy flu on Sunday night. And then I'm like, wait, this is Masters Week, right? And I swear every year, Masters Week is when the allergies first hit for yours truly. And I'm like, yep, time to go to the drugstore and get the Claritin. And so feeling much better as the week has progressed here.
It's Masters Week. It's Augusta. I don't know. I said I joked. Goon might be on his couch enjoying beverages and watching Tigers and Chef their tee off, but we got a good view right here while we chat it up. So
hang on, we've been having problems with the one headset. It's usually yours truly that gets stuck with that headset. Yeah, we're just not. I'm just going to make the. This is becoming routine for us. Although usually, again, it's me that's getting my headphones taken away. So yeah, I'll have you put those ones down. We're gonna do a little exchange here, and I think already that's sounding. Oh yeah, that's gonna be much better. All right, we're gonna have to set these aside. I keep forgetting about this at the end of the show. And we keep fooling ourselves with this.
Little malfunction.
So,
we're good.
For the radio audience now, you can actually hear Landon Tagwall.
There we go. How we doing, guys? I was just talking a little Masters.
Yeah.
We're hanging out though. Goon might be on the couch. I said having a couple of beverages, watching the Masters, but it's all good.
Not a bad thing to be doing. Of course, the coverage actually starts as we go on the air here this afternoon. I'm not sure what the weather in Philly is like right at the moment. I'm not sure if they'll get in the opening game of that Pirates Phillies series, but a big 4-game series here in the early going of the season. Big only in terms of the fun for the fans of the respective teams. Not so big probably in the overall scheme of how these seasons will ultimately fare for either team. However, a big game for the Pittsburgh Penguins tonight as they host the Detroit Red Wings in a I don't think you can quite say it's a must win, but boy, it'll be a really feel good if you win situation for the Penguins tonight as they try to almost miraculously work their way into the playoffs. I would not have thought that was a possible scenario just 2 weeks ago. Blue-white game coming up Saturday. And Landon, what your first thoughts when you think of the blue-white game? What goes through your mind with this weekend and what it means for? I guess let's start with the players, and then from there we'll go out to the media, because I don't think it means a doggone thing for the media, and then for the fans as well. But let's start from a player's perspective. Yeah. What does the blue-white game mean for the players?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is with three new coordinators at all spots, man. That's difficult. You got to get used to them. You're getting used to their coaching. It seems like this offense, from the looks that we've seen and have gotten put out on social media, it's going to be a whole new look offense. They're getting the quarterbacks involved. They're running. Going to be a lot of option handoffs, a lot of pitches. So it should be fun, and I think they're not going to show too much, as we see in any blue and white game or any spring game. You don't want to give anybody too much, and obviously give West Virginia any type of advantage headed into week one, just because they're going to be, I think, a completely different offense than what they saw week one this past year. So from an offensive standpoint, I'm excited to see kind of how this unit is meshing as a whole. How are these wide receivers developing? How is Julian Fleming settling in right now? Is he developing a good chemistry with Drew Aller? And then on the defensive side, I think there's a couple guys to be excited about. Obviously, everybody wants to see Abdul on the edge. What is that going to look like? I don't think he'll be going against Drew Shelton is out, so he'll be seeing Nolan Rucci or Anthony Donka, two younger cats that are both really talented. I think they're going to get a lot of play time this coming fall, but I'm excited to see how he's going to fare. I mean, he has been really limited in pass rush situations, and a lot of those pass rush situations have been third down where he's standing up over a guard or over the center and is moving around with a lot of stunts and twists. Well, now he's got to line up against the offensive tackle and go 60 plays, and he's got to rush for 30 plays in a row, and 30 pass plays throughout a game, and you got to set up moves. That's a whole different game when you're going against someone that long throughout a game instead of just mixing up rushes here and there on third down. So, I'm excited to see how he's going to adapt to that. Is he going to be able to take on 320-pound pulling guards? How is he doing with that? Because a lot of those linebackers don't like to get hit like that. So it should be fun, that type of thing. And then obviously how the defense is transitioning with Tom Allen. I don't think it's going to be as big of a transition as the offense is making. I don't think it's going to be that different of a look. I think we'll still see the 7-up on third down. We'll still see the same fronts, but maybe just a couple different blitzes, different exotic packages. But I don't expect to see too much different from that defense. But I think it's more for the defense, guys proving themselves. You look at the cornerback position, it is absolutely loaded. There is 6-7 guys that could come out as the starters, and it's a coin toss either way. Brought in 2 guys from the portal, one a little bit older and proven, the other one a little bit younger, both really talented guys. And then we got two young guys on the team right now that just started in the bowl game. You got Cam Miller. I'm blanking on my man's name. Zion Tracy. Tracy. So, Zion Tracy and Cam Miller both get started. I appreciate Neas Hawkins with the save right there. Over there having a beer and 25 wings.
The way it's supposed to be.
So Zion Tracy, but as I was saying, Zion Tracy and Cam Miller both started in the bowl game and had a rough game. Your first start in a New Year's Six bowl game against Lane Kiffin, air raid offense, and Jackson Dart was dealing it. That's not an easy game to get that first start in. And they weren't even in bad position, I feel like, for a lot of them. Cam Miller, they were working him a little bit, but it wasn't like he was in bad position. They were just, the throws were there and they were making a play on the ball.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, and we said this right after that game, Landon, is in today's game, especially, if the quarterback and the receiver are on, they win. Now you got to be on. I get it. But with the rules the way they are, and again, if you have an accurate quarterback and a receiver that can use the position, you don't need a big window, right? And I agree with you. I don't think, Miller kind of got lit up by some folks after that game. And I'm like, you go back and watch it. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, he got out, was out of position or just got, it was like, oh man, he was an inch away there. Oh, 3 inches away on that one. Oh, and sometimes again, I know fans, and players don't want to do it too, but every now and then it is okay to tip your hat and say, hey, job well done by the opposition. Like those guys are really good too, and sometimes they're just on. And I think that was just the case in that particular game and that particular circumstance. From a player's perspective, like how meaningful is the blue-white game? Like, take me inside the mentality. Is it like, oh, good, we're just done with spring practices? And I guess it probably varies a little bit. If it's your first blue-white game, your first opportunity to be in Beaver Stadium in front of any fans, I'm guessing that's a little different than the 5 or now potentially 6th-year veteran who's like, oh, God, do we have to go through this yet again? But take me through what kind of is going through your mind as a player as you walk out onto the field for the blue-white game in the overall scheme of the Penn State career here.
Right. I'd say the first thing with that is, like you said, how long you've been here. If you're Salim Wormley or Devon Elise and this is your 6th spring ball, you cannot wait for this spring ball to end. Your body aches. It hurts. You just finished 5-6 month season a couple months ago. So spring ball is not very conventional on those older guys' bones. So they're excited to be done and get into the summer, which is definitely the easiest part for the guys. You have early workouts and you kind of get to enjoy the summer a little bit more. And then for the younger guys, there is that opportunity to prove yourself in Beaver Stadium. And I think that can do a lot for your confidence headed into the summer. If you look back Now, granted, the stadium wasn't very full because of COVID, but my freshman year when we first got here, I early enrolled, and Kalen King was at the same time. And that first spring game that we had in the stadium, first time in the stadium, Kalen King had 2 interceptions. And I think that kind of set the tone for his career, that he was going to make an impact early on. So I think you can kind of look for people to have those type of days. They can prove themselves early on. You head into the summer while you're training, while you're competing for a spot on the depth chart. That mindset is, okay, I already went out there. I proved it in front of fans, in Beaver Stadium, under the lights, that type of deal, with all the pressure on. I can do this. I can compete out there in West Virginia week 1. So I think it's a big confidence booster, not only for young guys, but also people that are competing for positions. Because you think about it, when you end the spring game, the coaches are going to do an evaluation, and they're going to say, okay, this is how our depth chart is looking. What do we need to pick up? Anybody from the transfer portal? What are the holes? But part of that is your coach lets you know where you're at on the depth chart. And if you have a great spring game, you're much more likely to be the starter headed into the summer. And that's a lot easier when you already have that lead. You're the starter, that your mindset every day is coming in as a starter. If you're running with the 2s every day, when we just get together for summer and we're just running plays, it can mess up your mindset a little bit. So having a good spring game, I feel like I always felt was really important to me as a player headed into the summer.
Well, it'll be interesting too, Landon, because I'm wondering how different, even for the veterans, because of the 3 new coordinators and really some new schemes on both sides of the ball that are being implemented. If maybe this feels a little different in terms of maybe not the normal drudgery, but hey, yeah, we want to stay on top of this and really continue to be dialed in on what we're doing. And along those lines, I'm just, what do you think about my theory is that I think this is, and it's all relative. Nobody is saying whatever happens here on Saturday is necessarily a prelude, good or bad, for anything to come in the fall. But I do think part of what the coaching staff wants to do is make that good first impression on Saturday. And there's been so much talk about the importance of getting everybody on the same page before spring practices began within the coaching staff. And I think that communication, and from everything we're hearing, and again, it's not one of those things where if there was bad communication, I'd expect that the players and the coaches coming out like, yeah, we can't get it figured out. Nobody's communicating well. But the fact that everybody is like emphasizing how good it has been makes me believe and trust. Like, if it'd be one thing if you're being asked, hey, is the communication good? Yeah, it's been good. And then you move on. That's not what's happening. It is like, no, it is good. Everybody is on the same page. We really have an understanding of what it is. And everybody seems to be saying that. So while I don't think if the defense doesn't have a great showing or the offense doesn't have a great showing that Andy Kotelnicki or Tom Allen are going to go into hiding or anything, I do think both want to come out and, again, make that good first impression on the fan base that, hey, look at these. And again, we're going to see vanilla schemes, but look at what we're going to be implementing. And this is what you can expect to build on heading to the fall. So to me, it feels like pressure is not the right word, but I think there's a greater sense, I think, within the coaches and the players that, hey, let's go out and show something here on Saturday.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think also you talk about seeing a little bit of, the scheme being a little bit vanilla. You're not going to see all those special intricacies that we're saving for the beginning of the season, because you don't want to give those teams a 3-month prep period and get them to, look too deep into what you're doing. But I think it's going to be a complete new look offense. I think, like I said, there's going to be a lot of options involved with the quarterbacks being able to pull it. I think we'll see a lot of guys in motion, and it looks like, maybe an option pull it, and then you have someone in an orbit motion. You're able to then pitch it. I mean, it looks like they're going to get creative. Bo is definitely going to be involved. As we know, we started to do that towards the end of last year.
Yep.
And we've seen Andy Kotelnicki do that before at Kansas. So he's got to do it. I mean, especially with the spark that Bo was in some of those games.
No doubt.
I mean, it was really impressive, and he would get the guys fired up, and he's out there trucking guys, screaming, and that, I mean, at the quarterback position, that provides such a spark. So I'm excited from that angle, and then also things just like the run game and passing concepts. I think we see a lot of getting outside. I think we see a ton of outside zone. We see a lot of counter gap scheme. And they're gonna try to be explosive, man. You got Fat Man, you got Nick Singleton back there. Let's get Nick Singleton back to those 60 and 50-yard runs that we love to see his freshman year. And I know there was a bunch of people asking, where did that go? Why didn't we see that this past year? And I think sometimes it's just not there. But at the same time, I think a new look, a new feel offense is going to really benefit these running backs. And I know they're excited because the 1-2 punch that they are with Katron having that fantastic vision and hitting it for 10, 15 yards of pop. And then if Nick can come in and pop off some big runs, I think a really good run game could help Drew Aller even elevate even more to a top 5 quarterback in college football. I think if he has that run game that he can lean back on and that teams have to respect a little bit more, I think it'll really open it up for him and the wide receivers. And obviously we know what we have in Tyler Warren. So
yeah, and it felt like he just didn't get those guys in Singleton in particular in space much last year. And I don't know, it's one of those things. I think everybody at the moment is like, well, yeah, the schemes just weren't good. And I mean, I think there's some accuracy to that. I think that is true. The other part of it, though, is it feels like this offense with Kotelnicki is going to be more I think it's going to be more difficult for the defenders to figure out where the ball is going or even where the ball is. Like, I think there's going to be a lot more with the play action and trying to freeze people and or, again, a little fake pitch one way. It did not feel like there was a lot of that counter action last year. And I just think when you look at the personnel that Penn State has now, and to me, one of the things – I know everybody wants to see, and I want to see what Fleming does catching the ball. But we talked a little bit. I did with Goon on Tuesday, and Goon has said he has some buddies that have told him about Fleming's blocking and what a team first guy he was in Ohio State in that regard. And I really think when you look at what I think Penn State is going to try to do here with Kotelnicki in this offense is having guys that are willing to block across the board and go out there. And again, it doesn't have to be, hey, I blew my guy off of his cleats. It has to be, yep, I got him a little bit outside and allowed that crease. That's going to be big for this offense to be able to produce at the level that I think most of us are now expecting that it's going to in the upcoming season.
Yeah, no, it should be good. Obviously, and then one thing I think people aren't talking about a lot is a new look up front too. We have a brand new center. I don't think people realize how important Hunter Norzad was to this team, being a 60-year veteran. I always said when he came in every day, he was a NFL vet. The way he took care of his body, went about the playbook. This dude was sitting in coaching meetings. I mean, he had that offensive line handled, and they always knew where they were going, and they were all playing as one unit. And then on the outsides, obviously we know what we had in Olu Fashanu. We're gonna miss that. He was a lockdown left tackle. But I think there wasn't enough talk about Caden Wallace and what he did at right tackle last year. Really protected that right side of the line. And to have 2 bookend tackles for Drew, I think was great for his progression. And part of the reason why he was able to take care of the ball so much and play turnover-free football, when you're not getting pressure off that edge, it's a lot easier life to live. So now Drew Shelton was supposed to be left tackle, shoulder injury. He is out right now. I believe it's going to be a mixture of Nolan Rucci and Anthony Donka at the tackle position. I think the offensive line's a little thin for this spring game, but I'm excited to see how these guys fare against Abdul, against Denai. It's going to be a good test for them to see where they're at, because that's going to be really big for Drew this year if he can take that next step where everybody's expecting him to. It's year 3. This is where you become an absolute, top 5, top 3 quarterback in college football. and lead this team deep into the playoffs. But he's going to need protection to do that. And like I said, a brand new center. Obviously, Nick Dawkins is a veteran guy, and everybody in that building loves him and trusts him to lead that offensive line. But those young cats at tackle, it's going to be fun to watch. So that's something, if you're really looking for something that you think is really going to affect the fall, that you want to keep an eye on Saturday,
Yeah.
I would watch Nolan Rucci and Anthony Duncan, see how those guys are faring against some elite talent with Abdul and Denai.
Yeah, and I think seeing how some of the younger guys, like Cousins at center, like where are they at right now? And again, I don't know that you're going to definitively be able to say as a fan or a media member that, okay, well, this guy's right here right now. But you get, all right, a glimpse. Hey, man, that dude looked like he was holding his own. Or, you know what, it's early and he's got some work to do here to get to the point that, like Dawkins but Donk is a guy I think that it is going to be exciting. Obviously, I think fans want to see all of the transfers and just kind of how they're fitting. So, Rucci will have eyes on him. But I really think Donk is a guy that could be an integral part of not just this year's offense, but the future here of that offensive line. And I do think it's kind of exciting and almost a bit of a luxury right now for the coaching staff that I don't even know the last time Penn State had a situation where you have a good veteran presence on the offensive line and guys like Dawkins who have just, put their time in, grinded, and, are going to get rewarded here, presumably with the opportunity to showcase themselves in the upcoming season. But then you have a bunch of highly touted kids that are coming in, some that got some time last year, some that will be getting their first taste in the upcoming season, but where there are a lot of expectations. And I think having that nice mix of veteran leadership and maybe youthful enthusiasm is going to be beneficial. And I think you have genuine competition there on the offensive line, which I think is a good thing, certainly in spring football.
Yeah, absolutely. I want one kid I'm excited about too is Cooper Cousins. Just got here recently in January, and this kid is big for a center. He was the number one center in his class and came in here prepared. I talk to him all the time, and he has the mindset of an NFL vet. I speak when I say that, I mean that means you're coming in. That means you're going in the film room extra. You're taking care of your body after practice, after lifts. You're doing whatever you can to get better, extra snaps at center. That's the type of kid he is. And doing that as a freshman right when you get here really sets the tone. And some guys, you can go the opposite direction and just go and mess off after practice and do whatever. But you can tell this kid's dedicated. He is an absolute body out there. I mean, he's a huge kid. And I think he will get some good reps at center and guard. Obviously, earlier on, you play some teams where you can get some more backups in. I think he can see some good time early in the fall just because of how ready he is. And a lot of times it's hard as an offensive lineman when you get to college, especially when you early enroll. These kids are still supposed to be seniors in high schools, just having fun. And now you gotta go see Devon Lee's 6th-year senior out there on this coming Saturday. So it might, it's gonna be tough for him, but it's gonna be a good test. I'm excited to see him. How can he hold up in pass pro against those guys? And can he get some push? Can he get some movement? But I think he's going to be ready and someone that's going to push for some playing time this coming fall.
Well, and one of the things we talked about a little bit on Tuesday's show is when you look at a guy like Nick Dawkins, okay, I think it'd be easy for him to be threatened or to, okay, I'm going to hold you off. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you like I'm best buddies, but I've gotten to know Nick probably better than anybody else on the team, which is to say I've probably had 3 or 4 conversations worth of them compared to the 0 I've had with most of the team. So take it with a grain of salt. But I really do think, and I think this is across the board, and you obviously know much better than I, but I think Dawkins is just one of those guys, and I think this team is full of those guys where it's like, listen, do I want to be the starter and the guy? Absolutely. But do I want this team to be the best it can be and make sure that we're doing everything, all of us, to make that happen? I think that is genuinely more important to him. And again, I don't think that's an uncommon trait of the players on this team. And that's why, again, I'm not expecting people to say if there's not buy-in, hey, man, we just have a bunch of guys that aren't buying in. But when you have everybody saying, yeah, no, we are all in, like everybody see, like that is telling me that there is a complete buy-in here to what is being done. And we're hearing it, I mean, from coaches and players alike, that this spring has been different in a good way in terms of the communication, in terms of clearly understanding the expectations and what it is everybody's trying to get done each and every practice.
No, I think you're dead on there with, especially when these leaders and these guys that really embody what Penn State is and what this program is, when those are your best players, that's when your team is at the best. When those leaders actually, fully embody what we are trying to do here at Penn State and the core values. And I think that was really good a couple years ago with the Rose Bowl team when it was PJ, it was Jair Brown, Sean Clifford. There was some insane leadership. I've never seen a locker room run like that. It was really cool to be a part of. And not to say that it didn't have that last year, but that's hard. When you lose a lot of that veteran leadership, you look around like, okay, who's going to step up? Who's going to hold guys accountable? So when you have people like Nick Dawkins, who's a team guy, step up, I think KJ Winston is going to be an absolute baller All-American this year. And honestly, probably be out of here after this year. After the year everybody's anticipating him to have. I think that's someone that's probably going to be a team captain and lead this defense. Obviously, Dom DeLuca, we know he is a team guy. He will put his body and his life on the line for Penn State football any day of the week. He'll come home sometimes and he'll just have both hands just wrapped up with ice. He's like, I broke both my hands, but I'm still going. I'm like, yeah, that's Dom DeLuca right there. So, when you have those guys leading the team, guys start to fall in line and understand, okay, this is where the bar is being set. I need to get up this bar. That's not acceptable. And I think it's infectious when, like I said, when those guys are the team leaders. So I'm excited. I feel like this is a, new look Penn State. This team's very different, and see what we can get out of these guys. And then, like I said, there's a lot of young guys too. That's my favorite part especially about the second half of the game.
Yep.
It's like you get a great look at these, not only incoming freshmen, but there's a couple I'm really excited about. Jamil Lyons, defensive end. I think he is going to be special. He's a big kid. He's 6'4", 6'5", and started to really put on some weight. He was one of those guys we saw get some playing time at the end of those blowout games earlier in the season. Really didn't get to do a whole ton, but kind of reminds me a little bit of that like Brandon Smith-esque. Now, he's a defensive end. He's not a linebacker, but really long body and strong. And I pulled on him a couple times. It doesn't feel good to hit him. He can take on a point. He can set an edge. So that's one kid I'm excited, number 18. And then, like I said, those cornerbacks, I'm really excited to get a good look at. A.J. Harris, Cam Miller, Zion Tracy, and looking at linebacker too, Tony Rojas. This is someone that the fan base is really excited about, and someone who came in and put on what it seemed like 40 pounds at the linebacker position. And I remember the first day when he walked in, I'm looking at this kid, and I think he was like a 5-star, and I'm like, all right, he's got some work to do. He's got to put on some weight and get stronger in the weight room. Well, I blinked, and there goes 3 or 4 months later, and this kid puts on 30 pounds of muscle, and he is ready to go. And you saw that in a couple games when he, didn't get a ton of time, but when he started to get some real playing time towards the end of the season, he was making a big impact and some big splash plays, especially in Maryland. It's going to be exciting to see how he can step up, because now you're that Curtis Jacobs, you're that essentially Michael Parsons. I mean, Abdul stepped down; he's at defensive end now. You have to be the guy that's saving people, that's making big plays at linebacker position, and that's a lot of pressure. It's easier to excel when he was just a young cat, just a freshman that didn't really have too much expectation to do anything his freshman year. Well, now it's year 2. And it's time to step up. Like you got to go. You got to be the leader of this unit on that second level.
Well, I always think about when I think about linebackers, and as we were watching Rojas last year, Joe Paterno used to always talk about football in general, but linebacker in particular, like driving a car, and how when you're first, driving the car, you're double checking the rear view mirror, you're looking around, everything's uptight, and then as you get more and more comfortable with this, oh yeah, no, I know what I'm doing, and you start, and you could see Rojas, I thought, when he got in early last season, it's like, okay, like almost overthinking everything. And, as the season went on, it's like getting more comfortable. And now, just in, full disclosure, I'm not on the beat. I don't go up to the practices or anything like that, but listening to the folks who do, and yes, it's, you're not getting the full look, but the glimpses they're getting of practice, like to a person, everybody's like, oh yeah, Rojas is looking like the dude that everybody was billing him to be when he was, coming out and coming to Penn State, making the announcement that he was coming. Like, this guy looks like the next in the great line of linebackers here. And I just think, again, to me, it feels like, and we'll see, because we were probably saying many of the same things last year, but it feels like a lot of things are coming together for this team. I think with I like the scheme with the 4-2 defense, with the personnel they have, that just makes a ton of sense. We were talking a little bit earlier, Goon and I, about the importance of having versatility on both sides of the ball. Different looks, different approaches you can give, kind of keeping the opposing team guessing on what it is you're going to be giving them on a given play in terms of looks versus what's actually going to happen. And it feels like they have a lot of versatility on both sides of the ball, where they can really attack you in different ways, depending, again, on what the opposing team's maybe weakness is, or, just how you want to match up in a given week. I think there's a lot of different things, a lot of different combinations they have at their disposal this season, where they can really play that chess game to a pretty high degree.
And spring ball provides that opportunity for guys like Tony headed into that second year, where you get some time to get comfortable. It's like, okay, I've been here for a little bit. I've played in some real games, but now I have some time to fine tune everything. And I think that's kind of where the game starts to slow down a little bit. And we've talked about spring practice. When I remember last time I was on, we talked about spring ball and how most players are not very fond of it, especially the older ones. And it's rough on the body when you've just played 5 months and you're in your 4th, 5th season, and you're being asked to put those pads back on for another 3, 4, 5 weeks and hitting each other. It's hard. But for those guys that are just getting there in that first and second year, I think it's really beneficial where that game, and that's how I felt for me, my second spring ball, everything kind of slows down a little bit. Everything's not moving 100 miles per hour, and you start to see stuff. It starts to click, and when you're watching film, it just makes a little bit more sense. So that's why I really say I'm so excited to see the jump that young Tony Rojas is going to make, just because I know, how kind of big this could be. I mean, he could be one of the best linebackers in college football. He has that ability, and he has the instincts too. I mean, he's naturally, it's God gifted with that kid. So it's exciting, and the staff's excited. That's why I think they were so comfortable with Abdul moving to DN2.
Yep.
They knew Tony could be that guy at linebacker next to Kobe, which I also think another guy that doesn't get much credit at all is Kobe King, man. It was like when you looked at the games last season, you go to the stat sheet, and sure enough, after every single game, there at the top of the tackles, Kobe King, there he sat. So I think we know what we're going to get from our middle linebacker. He's going to be solid. He's going to be run stopping. He's going to go up. He's going to plug holes and allow Tony to make some plays. So I'm really excited about this kid and how this linebacking group is going to mesh.
Yeah, no, King is he was at for one of his classes. He helped out an event that my wife runs, and I got to tell you, being next to, like, he is ripped. I think we can safely say that.
Was that at Blue Course?
No, the one we did was out at the Park Forest Middle School. It was the day before the golf course one, and I think he might have just been helping out with that one. I'm forgetting now if he helped organize that one, or I think he was just kind of helping out classmates, and probably vice versa. They were helping him out the next day, but yeah, sometimes you forget. Well, I forget just how on TV. I mean, it's hard to really tell how big and with the Pats on, it's like, well, I don't know. When you see a guy like Kobe King up close and personal, it's like, whoa, dude. I'll just take a step back this way and make sure I stay on your good side. Thank you. We'll take a break here. We are coming back with more. It's the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show. We are at Quaker Steak and Lube, the place to be if you are a sports fan, a fan of food, a fan of beverages, or a fan of good service. This is a wonderful place to visit. You can come on down and watch the Masters here this afternoon. You can watch the Pirates beat up on the Phillies a little bit later. Tonight, you can come on down and watch the Penguins start to secure their playoff spot with a big win tonight over Detroit. Or, check out any of the other action on the TVs as you enjoy those great food items and beverages as well. We're coming right back here on Sports Radio 98.7 The Fox.
Coast into fall with a new Kia from Lion Country Kia. Right now, get a 24 Kia Seltos for 5.25% APR for up to 48 months. A new Sportage plug-in hybrid at 0.9% APR. Check out our 23 Sorrento hybrid for as low as 4.5% APR. And don't forget, all 2023 and 2024 Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Stop in and meet with one of our sales experts today and coast into fall at Lion Country Kia. We want to see you in a Kia.
Since retiring, I have spent my time searching the countryside for the hottest wings in America. I always seem to end up disappointed. You call these hot? Back off, Luigi.
Mamma mia.
Look, handsy busboy. Your wings suck. I knew I should have stuck with Quaker Steak's triple atomic wings. You think I'm tough enough?
The Center Hall Farm Store has been serving Center County and beyond for well over a half century. A small family business, the Center Hall Farm Store specializes in animal nutrition and manufactures its feed fresh using local ingredients. Get the best in horse, cow, pig, chicken, and bird feeds. If you're not already a customer, stop in and see why so many of your neighbors are. The Center Hall Farm Store at 110 West Allison Street in Center Hall, or call us at 814-364-1393.
Sioka Toyota of Williamsport invites you to stop in today or check us out online. We have the smart path to your next Toyota, like the all-new Crown, BZ4X, the all-new Grand Highlander, Corolla Cross Hybrids, Sequoias, and more. Over 100 new Toyotas here and on the way. Don't make a $1,000 mistake. Choose Sioka Toyota of Williamsport and see the Sioka dealership's difference. Buy or reserve yours today and see for yourself why Sioka Toyota is the only stop you need for your next new car. Sioka Toyota, it just feels right.
Ready to be part of something bigger? Come pave the road to success at Glen Baker and discover a career where your hard work and determination can build a bigger, better future. Our team believes we can build a stronger future together. Join us at Glen Baker, where we value teamwork on the field and on the job. Go to GOHcareers.com to apply. GOHcareers.com. And best of luck to all the Center County sports teams all season long from everyone at Glen Baker.
With a Timber Kids savings account, you can start to save money, earn prizes, and teach your kids the value of savings. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Building futures is what we do at TFCU.
You really need to belong to a credit union. You belong at TFCU, Timberland Federal Credit Union, a credit union you can grow with.
The Goon and Ironhead.
And we welcome you back in here on this Thursday afternoon as keep waiting for the storms. Looks like it might be starting to come into the area. It has been a rough couple of weeks here for the local high school athletic directors and anybody involved with outdoor spring sports. It's just been brutal trying to get things rescheduled. I think next week is officials. I'm forgetting exactly. I think it's officials recognition week. I will just tell you, the folks who are willing to be high school officials in any of the sports, God bless you. We need more of you. It's a constant battle trying to get everything covered these days. And if sports are a passion of yours and you're able to devote a little time to really becoming an expert in the sport and help folks out on the officiating front, it would be greatly, greatly appreciated by coaches, athletes, fans, and certainly athletic directors alike. So a little plug there for the officials, and hopefully we can get some more into the various sports scenes here on the local front and throughout the state.
Jeff, that sounds like fun, man. I always wanted to be an official. I'm not going to lie. I would always get into scraps with them. I was the type of guy I like to fight with them, and I'd say stuff that was probably a bad idea because they end up officiating your game again. But, it sounds like fun. I want people to be mad at me when I make a call. I don't know.
I will say so I've been fortunate enough to do some PA announcing for State College softball for I think maybe 3 of the last 4 or 5 years, and I am genuinely impressed by the caliber of umpires that we get to those games. Their understanding of the game and their knowledge of the game, number one, because there have been some situations where I'm like, what in the world? I've never seen that before. And they are like on top of it. It's like, yep, this is what happens here. And the coaches haven't seen it. They're questioning, and they're like, nope, this is, and they'll pull out the rule, and this is why it is, and this is how it is. They're really good about taking the time to explain and obviously have a tremendous understanding of it. But also just the interactions. One of the things that I truly love about covering sports and kind of getting back into it more on the high school level, and with my kiddo being in Little League and almost 9 years old, so kind of getting reacquainted. I mean, I haven't been in that scene since I was a kiddo. Several things that I like, but one of the things I most like is the interactions, and just there's like a bunch of little moments. And I'll just give you an example. Yesterday, and it's just one of those moments that I think I'm going to think about. Excuse me, the allergies are just killing me. My throat is just I feel fine today, but
we'll get
every
you
now and then the throat is like,
we'll get you to,
like it's going out.
We'll get you to CVS after this. We'll get you some drugs shortly after.
More clarity. So it's a little interaction. It was not a big deal, and I don't know how many other people even noticed it or understood it. But it was one of those moments where I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's just like Americana. So what happened yesterday? And by the way, kudos to State College. Jess Hawbaker belted a 3-run homer in the bottom of the 7th for a walk-off win, a 7-4 win for State High over Redland yesterday. So first of all, little kudos there. But I think it was maybe in the 6th inning. Umpire is behind home plate, pitch is thrown. Now, I didn't even hear it. I'm kind of zeroed in and just making sure I'm getting the pronunciation right for the next batter and all of that. And umpire says, hold up. It's like, walks over and he's like, hey, whoever in the crowd just made that duck call, I put the duck call away. I don't want any more of that during the game. And he walks back, and
those parents get into it, man.
The batter is, and I hope she doesn't mind me sharing this. The batter is Gabby Todd, and she looks at the umpire and she's like, she has this big smile on her face. She goes, I'm so sorry. That was my grandfather. That was my grandpa. And the umpire chuckles a little bit. He's like, it's all right. We just can't. I don't want it during the pitches. That's all.
That's great.
It was beautiful, and it was just I don't know. And there's a lot of those moments, obviously. To what you're saying, those interactions between officials and coaches. And listen, what everybody sees or they, screaming, there's a lot more of those moments where you're just sharing a chuckle, a little story, catching up on, a lot of these folks know each other and it's like, how's your family? Like there's a lot more of that stuff than there is the, I got an egregious call, and you get caught up in the heat of the moment, and we all do from time to time. That's part of it too. But I don't know. Those things are, to me, what's really special about sports. And it's like, I don't know, it's just a funny little moment during what was an intense game. I mean, it was a real good battle yesterday between State High and Redland. But I love, like, those kinds of interactions where it's like, oh, my gosh. Should I tell you that was my grandpa that did?
Look, I don't think I've ever told this story, but it's too fitting for me not to tell it. I have a ref story that was actually off the field. So I'm at my high school. This is 2019, and at this time I'm about to commit. I have I have a ton of offers and all that stuff. And my school, there was a lot of events that would go on there, and they'd have basketball tournaments on the weekends. And so I'm wearing a Penn State T-shirt. And, I'm walking around and there's a ton of basketball games and there's a ref out there. And the ref comes up to me and he goes, hey, do you go to Penn State or what's your deal? And I tell him I'm a recruit and I kind of tell him I'm going to go there. That's where I plan to play football. And he goes, did you just watch that? And this is like December of 2019. He goes, did you watch that Minnesota Penn State game? I said, yeah, the one where Penn State kind of got screwed at the end. He said, yeah, I was the one that threw the flag. He's the one that the pass interference flag. Yeah.
Wow.
And I actually have his number right here. I'm going to put him out. Raymond Daniel. Raymond Daniel. That was I'm putting him on blast because he told me he was proud of it. He said, when you see Coach Franklin, you tell him I'm the one that threw that flag. I'm like, dude, this guy clearly has an agenda against Penn State. I guess he was, I don't know. He was a Maryland guy. So you know how the Terps feel about us.
Oh,
but, yeah, that was my craziest referee story. The dude who threw the flag in that Minnesota 2019 game, which if we would have won that game, I mean that would have flipped the whole year. That was a big loss in 2019. So yeah, Raymond, if you're out there, if you're listening, man, you screwed us bad, and he was happy about it. So.
Now I just want to. Now you're bringing up Sam Licklider memories on the basketball front. Now I'm like, now you're getting me all worked up again. No, it is. It is funny when you see people out of context too, right? Like it has thrown me off when, like, I'll run into somebody that I'm used to seeing in a particular setting. Right, and especially in the sports, it's like, if you see a coach, like even when I was a kid, if you saw your high school coach like at the grocery store, it's like, well, this is just weird. It's like, well, no, of course your coach grocery shops too. It's like, well, yeah, but this is I'm only supposed to see him in the classroom or at the football field. So it's funny when you see people in that context too. Yeah. But that's interesting that he kind of proudly owned up.
I know. He said, "Hey, let Coach
questionable
Frank."
At best. Call.
I know it was more than questionable. I think most people agreed it wasn't the best call, but
egregious comes to mind is the term I'm searching for. Oh man.
Yeah, that's man. There's some games back then, and then think back to, I think, was it 2017, the Michigan State game?
Oh, yeah.
There were some rough games that we took L on that hurt. I think actually Aeneas Hawkins got some burn in that game. Speaking of, didn't you get in that game? Did you get it? No. Oh man, it wasn't too often that Aeneas got in, but
Ouch.
No, we love Aeneas, man. No, but you were just saying though, it's fun to see that different side of people and coaches and players, and I think that's one of the cool things. One about all these players starting to do their own podcast, whether that be NFL, NBA.
Yep.
That you get to see this other side where it's like, hey, these guys, we like the same food, or we watch the same shows, or they talk about real life stuff. Hey, we've been through the same struggle. That it kind of humanizes everybody a little bit. When I think we see these top level athletes, especially in the major leagues, where it's like, okay, they're godlike and they live this otherworldly life than us. And it's like reality. He has the same exact day as you, except he just goes and does his sport and makes millions of dollars. So it's a little different in that front. He can go take a vacation to Turks and Caicos, but overall, you live a similar life.
Yeah, but you know what? The trade-off to that is you're also under a lot more scrutiny, both on and off the field. And we got into the discussion earlier on like Caitlin Clark, and it was just amusing to me. You're reading through some of the tweets afterwards, like, "Yep, always a loser. She gets chokes in the big games." It's like, really, and again, that these aren't people that were like in the Super Bowl and Super Bowl champions tweeting this stuff. These are people that were never good enough to be in the arena and just like to, I guess, make themselves feel better that here's somebody else that can't achieve the ultimate. It's like, okay, but you do understand like what she's done compared to with whatever you've done in the athletic arena anyway. It's not really close there, Skippy.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That stuff just always kind of amuses me.
I know that's the bad part about Twitter. It gives too many people a voice that really shouldn't have a voice. And it's funny. I'm rewatching The Last Dance right now, the Bulls documentary.
Yeah.
And it's so weird to look at how everything was just handled for top tier athletes back then. That was before I was alive, when there was no internet really, and you could actually do things freely. I mean, now, and it's like you can get off of it. And we've seen certain athletes say they deleted their Twitter and deleted their Instagram. But if you don't, you literally have constant trolls. I mean, in your Twitter telling you how bad you are, and people will get personal with family members. I mean, because it's just so accessible, they'll do research on you to be as crazy as possible. And so these guys are opening their phone, and like, as much as you can say, I just blocked that out, that negative, I mean, it starts to weigh on guys. So it's, I think there's certain things that are bad about where we are nowadays, but that's kind of what people ask for. If you want the possibility to be famous on Twitter and Instagram and all these athletes we see taking advantage of, TikTok and posting videos, if you want that side of it, there's the flip side of having to deal with that criticism.
Although it is tough, because even if you don't do that stuff, right, because of the prevalence of cell phones, like if somebody goes to a bar, an of age person goes to a bar and has a couple of beers, and again, somebody could take a video. Again, I'm not meaning to bring up Joe Paterno over and over, but he used to tell the story about how the one thing he would turn people away from was when he was at the beach in New Jersey. He's like, these girls would come up and say, can I get my picture? And he's like, no.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody spreading anything that, and this is, again, before the days of cell phones and everything, but it's like, man, it takes one instance where you don't even have the full story, but you think you're getting a glimpse of something, and it's like, oh, look at what this guy's doing. What it's like, no, it's got to be kidding me.
It's true. I mean, I like on Twitter, I log on, and after the Iowa won in the Final Four, there was like videos of Caitlin Clark just at a party, just like standing there with a drink in her hand. And it's like, dang, she can't even just enjoy life without just being filmed. I mean, that's where I kind of start to be not envious of those people that are very famous, because it's like, you can't even go to the grocery store looking, somewhat of a mess, or you're having a rough day. You're getting put on TMZ and there were some other things. There was a video after, I think, the Elite Eight, Zach Edey, after at a party, was heading to a room with a lady, and like that stuff gets put out, and it's like how your business like that is put. I mean, someone just videotaping you going into rooms and stuff. It gets to be a lot. So I'm sure that has to weigh on people's mental health. So I hope we can, as a society, maybe tone it back a little bit. But I think it's just going to keep getting worse with more and more phones, and as athletes make more and more money, they're going to become more popular with brand deals. So I think we're going to continue to see more of that, but it's hard. Privacy is definitely at a premium these days. That's for sure.
Well, and it is almost a side sport now for some, where it's all right, we're going to build these people up, and then we're going to zap them. And then we depending on the situation, we may rebuild them up. If we like them, we may be able to tell a comeback story. And it's like, how about you just let people live their lives and appreciate the moments that they're giving you in terms of the sporting arena. that's the world I'd like to live in. I don't know that we'll ever quite get back to that, but it is.
It feels like sporting events like aren't as cool when everybody has their phones out and they're concerts. I was just at the Drake concert a couple weekends ago, and it's like not this. I'm like, dude, you have your phone out the entire time. You're not going to enjoy this a little bit, but you're looking through a lens, and it's sad. And then thankfully, I'm just old enough to remember when it wasn't like that. I mean, back in like 2008, I was a little kid, but not everybody had their phones out. You could actually enjoy events. And if not, people are glued to their phones. It's like, let's be social, let's talk, and everybody's just scrolling on Twitter and looking down at their phones. It is, yeah. I'm getting on a whole society rant, but no, I'm old fashioned with that type of stuff, man.
Well, and perspective is interesting because, of course, if you did not hear earlier today, O.J. Simpson passed away. His family confirmed that he has passed away, and for those of us of a certain age, certainly older than you. Like the Bronco chase is just a signature moment. And it was one of those bizarre things where like everybody just started buzzing about it. It's like, hey, do you know what's going on? No. And then as people were coming home from class or whatever it was, it's like, hey, you gotta get your TV on and check this out. And even now there's such widely varying opinions, and I don't know, won't go too far down this rabbit hole, but I don't know if folks are aware of just how abusive that relationship was and the police calls that have been coming in from Nicole Brown in the weeks leading up to the murder. I mean, it was an awful situation, and a lot of that evidence was not permitted at trial. And I'll never understand all of the intricacies of our legal system, and there's all kinds of legal things that are and aren't allowed, but some of the things that weren't permitted at trial, and the jurors have said afterwards, say, "Oh my God, well, yeah, if we had known that, obviously that changes our perspective here." But that was one of those moments where, and there just haven't been that many. I'm not old enough to remember the moon landing, but obviously that was one where everybody was kind of glued in. And while this is certainly a much weirder and different situation, that Bronco chase for our generation was probably as viewed and talked about an event as anything out there.
It's infamous. I mean, people at my age, they kind of glamorize it. Like guys have like have a flag, the picture of the chase, and it's on a flag in their room, and people will hang it up. It's very glamorized, and I guess people, that was a huge event. And have you seen The People vs. O.J. Simpson? I think it used to be on Netflix.
Yes, I never did see the whole. I saw bits and pieces of it. I never did see the whole thing.
It's very well done. I think it's by the people that make American Horror Story, and it's like 9 or 10 episodes, and you get a good in-depth look at everything that happened with Marsha Clark, the prosecutor's office. I mean, there was a lot of politics going on. You see how there was a lot of other stuff, race brought into it, and a lot of jurors were kind of like bullied into feeling a certain way. It's really interesting, and they actually they did a 3-part series. They did OJ, they did Monica Lewinsky, and they did Gianni Versace. So if anybody's looking for a new series this summer when you're bored, there's those 3 series. But the OJ, I mean, being how young I am, I would hear about OJ and that type of stuff. Aeneas Hawkins piecing out after he just had 30 wings, all on Big Goon's tab. That poor guy just killed him a basket.
The way it's supposed to be done.
Exactly. But yeah, man, it was just cool to be able to kind of be taken back in time a little bit and understand how big that was. Like I didn't realize. I mean, the world came to a stop when they were announcing, his verdict. It was everybody stopped and was listening, and then there was half of it where people were completely against him, and the other half were cheering for him. And yeah, man, definitely gets. I was talking to a couple of people about it. It's definitely interesting for someone who we know killed 2 people allegedly. We know what happened, and the fact that he's just so it's still so glamorized just because he was a big time athlete. I mean, it's interesting. It shows how big football is on our society. That's for sure.
No doubt about that. A couple of just housekeeping notes here. One, we are aware, if you're wondering if we're aware, we are aware that we're having signal issues with our 98.7 FM signal here in State College. It's a transmitter issue. The short of it is we had the tubes that are in the transmitter, which is a very old transmitter, basically blew, just stopped working. And the situation is the transmitter is so old that the tubes that are in it aren't made anymore, so we have to get those refurbished. So we're kind of scouring and trying to get some things in there to piecemeal it for the time being. So we have people working on it. I know there are people out at the tower here as we're talking this afternoon. So it may be quite a while till we get back to full capacity, like even a couple of months, but we're working to get it as good as we can get it, as quickly as we can get it. Also, just a programming note that Goon and I will be here. I'm trying to make sure I have my weeks right here. We'll be here all of next week. Obviously, the U.S. Olympic wrestling trials will be at the Jordan Center this following weekend. And then that following week, we will not have a show that Thursday. Goon and I will be down at a pretty neat charity event that I'm sure we'll talk much more about down in Florida that weekend. And we'll both be out of town on that Thursday. So no show on Thursday, the 25th, I believe it is. And what was the other note I wanted to pass along? Oh, if you missed this morning, we had on Frank Parlato, who has frankreport.com. If you're interested, we're not going to get into it here, but if you're interested, he has a lot of updates on the Jerry Sandusky case. And Frank Parlato is a long-time investigative journalist and has done a lot of work that has helped free people who were innocent from prison and convicted people who belonged in prison by showing the wrongdoing. Parlato is 100% convinced of Jerry Sandusky's innocence and has posted, again, a lot of evidence and information about the case. The interview with him is now up at our website, which is 987thefox.com. If you did not hear that this morning and you want to check that out, and if you want to listen to the show or our programming and you can't get the signal at the moment because of our transmitter issues, 987thefox.com would be the place you can do that. We'll take a break here. You're listening to the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead Show. We are here at Quaker Steak and Lube. It is Landon Tengwall filling in for the Dear Goon today. And we're coming right back after this on WFXS Pleasant Gap State College.
Coast into fall with a new Kia from Lion Country Kia. Right now, get a 24 Kia Seltos for 5.25% APR for up to 48 months. A new Sportage plug-in hybrid at 0.9% APR. Check out our 23 Sorrento hybrid for as low as 4.5% APR. And don't forget, all 2023 and 2024 Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Stop in and meet with one of our sales experts today and coast into fall at Lion Country Kia. We want to see you in a Kia.
Since retiring, I have spent my time searching the countryside for the hottest wings in America. I always seem to end up disappointed. You call these hot? Back off, Luigi.
Mamma mia.
Look hands it, busboy. Your wings suck! I knew I should have stuck with Quaker Steak's triple atomic wings. You think I'm tough enough?
The Center Hall Farm Store has been serving Center County and beyond for well over a half century. A small family business, the Center Hall Farm Store specializes in animal nutrition and manufactures its feed fresh using local ingredients. Get the best in horse, cow, pig, chicken, and bird feeds. If you're not already a customer, stop in and see why so many of your neighbors are. The Center Hall Farm Store at 110 West Allison Street in Center Hall, or call us at 814-364-1393.
Sioka Toyota of Williamsport invites you to stop in today or check us out online. We have the smart path to your next Toyota, like the all-new Crown, BZ4X, the all-new Grand Highlander, Corolla Cross Hybrids, Sequoias, and more. Over 100 new Toyotas here and on the way. Don't make a $1,000 mistake. Choose Sioka Toyota of Williamsport and see the Sioka dealership's difference. Buy or reserve yours today and see for yourself why Sioka Toyota is the only stop you need for your next new car. Sioka Toyota, it just feels right.
Ready to be part of something bigger? Come pave the road to success at Glen Baker and discover a career where your hard work and determination can build a bigger, better future. Our team believes we can build a stronger future together. Join us at Glen Baker, where we value teamwork on the field and on the job. Go to GOHcareers.com to apply. GOHcareers.com. And best of luck to all the Center County sports teams all season long from everyone at Glen Baker.
With a Timber Kids savings account, you can start to save money, earn prizes, and teach your kids the value of savings. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Building futures is what we do at TFCU.
You really need to belong to a credit union. You belong at TFCU, Timberland Federal Credit Union, a credit union you can grow with.
The Goon and Ironhead.
And we welcome you back into the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show here on this Thursday. Landon Tengwall filling in for the Dear Goon, who's a little under the weather here this afternoon. And, yep, the allergies are kicking up. That is for sure. And we think that's what's impacting the Dear Goon, or he thinks that's what the case is. I know they hit me pretty hard earlier in the week, and even now, the Claritin is certainly helping, but still trying to get back to where the throat isn't scratchy and the eyes aren't watering. All right,
difficult for this job.
Yes, indeed.
Not easy. Wait, real quick, I do. So next week we got the Olympic trials. I do have to ask you. You know, I follow Penn State Wrestling pretty close, but overall, I'm not too big into the wrestling world or too much into like MMA or anything like that or UFC. I watch the big fights. But I'm sure you had to have seen Bo Nickel talk about Carter on that podcast. Yeah. And then I always love Carter's Twitter coming back and saying, I'll end your career. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm excited. Can you is there any way they go against each other? I'm not familiar with the whole thing.
Yeah, there is that opportunity. I'm not exactly sure where in the tournament they would meet if they both win, but certainly that is a possibility that Jordan Burroughs and Carter Starachi would meet. I got to tell you, and it's one of those things where I think I need to start wrapping my head around the I don't know if you want to call it the new age thinking where I guess maybe it's not new age, maybe it's old school thinking that, there's no such thing as bad publicity and all of that. And it is fun in terms of revving up the interest. Like Burroughs versus Starachi, if it happens, like there's no doubt the wrestling community is going to be locked in and watching and rooting passionately one way or the other. I'm just telling you, as somebody, and obviously I love Carter and have a tremendous amount of respect for what he has done, the way he has done it. And, as with everybody, one of the things, obviously not going to go into any great detail, but there's a lot of personal things that are going on or went on over the course of the last year that Carter's dealing with that, people don't know about. And I think one of the things that, I try to keep in mind, and I am one of those, I'm a sports knucklehead. And so like when I'm watching the Pirates or the Penguins, like in the moment, right, it's like, oh, you idiot, just what I was getting on people for, but I don't go to Twitter and I don't go public with and say, oh, what a loser. Like it's in the heat of the moment. And then, yes, 5 minutes later, I'm like, for crying out loud, he gave up a goal. Like there's a lot worse things going on in the world. The guy, he didn't intend to give up the goal, obviously. He has, 100 times the talent I'll ever dream of having. So maybe, put it in perspective you knucklehead, meaning me. But I am one of those, like, I love my teams and I get caught up and I'm passionate in the moment, but I think I'm pretty quickly able to, all right, put it in perspective and say, that's a bummer, man. Like,
Yeah,
I really wanted that to happen, but it didn't, and
right.
we move on. So Jordan Burroughs is one of the all-time greats in international wrestling for the U.S. and has represented our country as well as anybody has. And so I truly have a tremendous amount of respect for Jordan Burroughs and what he has done throughout his career. This is one of those that it does make me cringe a little bit. And again, I love Bo Nickel, love Carter Starachi, and appreciate everything both have done and continue to do for the Penn State and wrestling community. This is one where I wish everybody had just not gone public with any of it. And starting with Burroughs, I do think Burroughs, I think Nickel was accurate and was on point with saying, listen, you don't, as a broadcaster, you should not be saying you're going to go after somebody's bad knee. Like, it's a bad look for Burroughs, even if it's true. And, I suspect there's a lot more guys that will do that than would tell you that they're going to do that. But again, it is a sport where your ultimate goal is to win. And just as an offense in football, if you have a new quarterback who isn't as fast as your wide receiver, well, guess where you're going to keep throwing? Well, you're picking on him. Well, yeah, because I'm trying to win the game. Well, again, we can sit here and argue one way or the other, but yeah, if I am out here to try to win and I see you have a bad leg, I don't think, and again, I've never been in that type of arena, but it makes sense to me that, I'm going to attack the bad leg. I'm going to test it. I'm going to see how well that holds up. That makes sense to me. I do think it's a bad look to say it the way Burroughs did, and then to kind of double down on it after Nickel called him out on it. I think the whole thing, like, I'm not a fan of. I just think it makes everybody, to me, look a little bad, but there's no question that this has raised the interest substantially in a potential Starachi Burroughs match. And at the end of the day, I guess, I think that's probably good for the sport, that you're drawing some people that might not otherwise check it out. It's like, well, I want to see, is Starachi going to end Burroughs' career?
Yeah.
Is Burroughs going to go after that leg and make him? I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to go now. I'm going to go because of it.
Yeah.
I saw it on Twitter. I'm like, man, wait, I need to check this out. I looked right after I saw Carter's tweet.
Yeah.
I looked up. I said, when is it? I was texting people. I said, okay, I'm there. And I think it's cool too in this NIL realm where people have such popularity on social media, that Carter, this is clearly that's how he is. That's who he is. We know him. We know how he is. But it's cool that he can kind of play his own character. Like, he's the villain. Like, that's clearly the persona that he has embodied, and he loves doing it. And it's a good look, and that's good for it's, some people might say it's not a good look, but it's a good look for the wrestling world, and it's good for his brand. If you're that guy and you're getting people to tune in because you have that villain mindset, I think it's awesome, and especially what he just did with a bum leg is the mindset that he had is incredible. And it might be more of a Gen Z thing that I like it, but him putting out tweets before the match about how he was gonna handle this kid and take a leak on his grave. That was that's where it's just a little too far.
Yes.
Where I think you got to be careful. Where companies and endorsements, they don't love that type of stuff. But that villain mindset that he's kind of portraying, and I think it helps him. It puts him into a different mode. Just on the mat where he can go into a different level. But you do have to be careful. But I don't know. Me as a Gen Zer, I enjoy it. It makes me tune in even more and pay attention more intently. And if I am picking Carter Starachi up for some type of endorsement, I'm interested in what he's saying, because he's a funny cat, and he's got my attention now.
Yeah, and it's interesting because listen, I'm a media member, so I am somebody that is looking for the stories. I'm much more back on that kind of a scene. I'm looking for the stories on the local front in particular, but in sports in general. And there's no question that when you have folks that are willing to either just openly state their opinion or mind, and it's always interesting to me, Landon, because this is one of those things where journalists will complain, and media members, broadcasters, everybody in the media will complain when you get what we call coach speak. It's like, all right, coach, how do you handle this? What are your expectations? Well, we respect everybody, but we fear nobody. Our guys are giving 110%. And it's like, okay, but what do you really think? And then when somebody tells you what they really think, it's like, oh, this guy's crazy. He's an idiot. Why would you sell this stuff? And it's like, well, you can't. I mean, you can, because we do. We play it both ways. But so while I will admittedly cringe at some of the things Carter tweets and the whole, the graveyard one, I'm like, oh, don't do that. Like, just don't. But one of the reasons I do love covering Carter is you do know where he stands, and he's very open, and he's not giving you the cookie cutter version of anything when it comes to his answers to questions. And so again, if you want somebody to be open and honest and give you an insight into who they are and the mentality they give you, I think you have to, I mean, you can be critical of it, but you have to be accepting that, okay, this is, what you want. But we always, I don't know, I feel like we want you to give us the answers that we want you to give. Well, that's ridiculous.
Well, I think you nailed it on the head with the whole coach speak thing, and that's what people are so sick and tired of. And I think we were talking about earlier, all these player podcasts are doing really well because you're getting it real, you're getting it raw from the players. And it's none of this coach speak stuff. It's guys that are sitting back, relaxed, and you're learning about them. For example, someone like Carter Starachi, I would be very interested to listen to a sit-down podcast with him where it's, you're just chilling, you're interviewing him, and you're learning about him as a person. And he'll talk a little bit about wrestling and what goes on the mat, but it's more about, what is your background? How did you come up? Let me learn about you as a player. And I think that, as a person, and that is something that's really cool about NIL that it didn't happen before. No one knew didn't matter, wrestler, basketball, football. You didn't know what these guys were about. You didn't get a chance to hear their backstory, really, maybe a little bit on signing day, that type of thing. But outside of that, you're not hearing about the things that these kids have went through and their journeys as a whole. So that's one thing that I'm excited that I'm doing, as you've obviously helped me out a lot. I kind of created my own media channel where I'm doing a bunch of cool stuff, bringing on current Penn State athletes, a lot of football players. Now I got to try to get Carter on and bring that up. Maybe we can get a response back to Burrows and Nickel and see what's going on over there. Maybe I can rev something up a little bit. But yeah, so I'm putting all that stuff out. I'm doing film breakdowns, hoping to get some different coaches on, and doing some cool stuff with the players, food eating challenges, golfing videos, all that type of stuff should be fun. I'm putting out a Chop Robinson film breakdown tonight, actually. So if you want to, and I put out my first podcast last week. If you want to check any of that out, it is Behind the Wall on YouTube or Landon Tangwall on Twitter or Instagram. Check me out because I am putting out a lot of content. But Jeff definitely one of the guys that got me started. So I'm happy about it. It's fun to showcase other athletes' personalities in their background and allow fans to understand who these people actually are.
Well, and I'll tell you, Landon, one of the things that I really do love about my job, and again, kind of getting reacquainted with the high school scene and now even the youth sports scene is the. And I'm trying to think. We had Mike Portman on. I think it was maybe a week and a half ago.
I just had lunch with him about a week ago. I love him.
The thing that, and he said, and I know, I mean, it wasn't like an aha moment or anything like that, but it just reiterated like the reason that I do think sports is as popular as it is in this country is, yeah, we love the sports, we love the games. I mean, there's no question about that. But what is compelling is the stories. Like every year with the Olympics, and I mean, I love following the Olympics, and I'm one of those that I get hooked on sports that, yep, I admit I don't follow, don't care about, with the exception of that little 2-week span in the summer every 4 years. Like I do not follow swimming on any regular basis with the world championships or anything like that. Track and field, again, now some of the local athletes and stuff, yes, but I'm not following that stuff with any kind of regularity. But what draws me in is, I'm interested in seeing the swimming and the track and field for the sports themselves a little bit. But it is the stories, and you hear the backgrounds of these people and what they've been able to overcome, and all that they've had to put into it, and the help they've gotten along the way. And then it's the personalities as well. And it's not. I think some people get there's a misperception that we all want the big gregarious personality. There is no question that we love the big gregarious personality for sure. But I think different people connect differently with different other people. And I think the fact that you see somebody that is just a really quiet, studious person and very unassuming, like there is an appeal to that, right? There is an appeal to somebody who is just grateful for the opportunity, doesn't want the spotlight, and just is kind of being nudged there because, hey, it's the Olympics. This is a big deal. So it isn't that you have to have a certain type of personality or a certain story or a certain background. There's all kinds of different backgrounds, stories, personalities that I think we find compelling for different reasons. And I think that is seeing that there can be different ways to be successful at the highest levels, I think is beneficial. And I just got into a discussion with somebody, and it was sparked by a part of an interview that I heard, and I don't even know who the individual was that I was listening to being interviewed, but it was some sort of I think he was at least billing himself as a youth sports expert, or maybe just an expert on youth and the challenges they have. I don't know. But his contention was that travel teams, travel sports at the youth level are, I think he said, destroying our youth. And this is where while I do think there are many cases where people are being harmed by that, I think there's also a lot of cases where it has been really beneficial for family and athlete alike. I think with anything, when you start painting with the broad brush, and I don't think it's for everybody, and I don't think it's the only route to be successful. I'm going to tie all this together in a moment, but I'm going to veer off on another direction here just for a second, because I was listening to Mike Rowe on Brian Kilmeade's radio show on Fox earlier today. And Mike Rowe was talking about the importance of VOTEC and, allowing kids the option of, yes, just develop a trade skill that is needed. There are lots of people that are wildly successful. I have a friend who has a 16-year-old son. High school is a waste of time. I'm just going to tell you, for this kid, he already has his own. He's 16 years old, if you missed that. 16. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to, make the paycheck for the next month here. This kid at 16 has his own landscaping and such business where he now, and I don't know how many he has, but he has a bunch of lawn mowers, riding mowers, has a bunch of, and he has, I don't know how many employees, but he has people working for him at the age of 16. He has his company up and running and is really good at what he does, hustles, is a great worker, and just wants to get through school right now because he wants to go make money. And I mean, he's doing that, but school's getting in the way at the moment. And I'm not saying he shouldn't finish up school. I'm not opening up that can of worms. But Mike Rowe's point is, for too long, I think too many people were, hey, to be successful, you have to get a college education. Not saying that college education isn't great, not saying that it's necessary for some people. If you want to be a doctor, yep, you need the college degree. We need you going to school for that. Okay, if you're going to practice law, yep, you need to go to school for that. But it's not the only path. And travel teams, again, have their place and are wonderful for some people. They're not for everybody. And there are a lot of success stories of people who never were on travel teams in basketball, in baseball, in football. I mean, I don't know if there's travel teams in football, but I mean, people have gone on to be successful in sports without having been on those travel teams. Like it does happen. And I certainly know families and kids where it's like, yep, they burned out and it was too much, and it was not a healthy pressure that was being put on them by the family. There's no question that exists too, but it's like with everything. I don't think there's hey, everybody needs to or nobody can or should do. It's like, man, you gotta. It's individual situations and individual paths, and I do worry when I hear anybody say either way that, yep, you can't be on a travel team and have a healthy, successful childhood. Not true. It's just not. But is it also true that you don't have to be on a travel team to be successful in athletics and all of that? That is also true.
Yeah, I do think there is sometimes too much specialization in youth athletes.
That's too young of an age. Yeah,
and too many kids, going to trainers here and then trainers there and then going to sports, 7 nights a week. And it's great for kids to be busy. But I think some parents especially are getting wrapped up in kind of everything that's going on. And it's perpetuated by social media. And I think that's kind of the path we knew we were going to go down. Social media, NIL, that all kind of trickles down, and you see it because now there's NIL in high school sports, and there's I believe in PA it's not legal, but I think New York it's legal, is making money as a high school athlete through NIL. And dude, we're talking about paying kids now, and now what does that look like? Is IMG Academy, is that going to start to be funded to where you make money to go there? I mean, what are we going to see change next? So there's obviously a lot of growth we're going to see, but whether it's good or bad is up for interpretation. But I do think it's definitely messing up a lot of kids' young development, where especially putting a kid in a sport at 7 years old and saying, hey, this is your sport, you're playing this. Number one, that kid is absolutely going to get burnt out. When he is 16, 17, he's probably going to be somewhat resentful of that sport because he wasn't able to try anything else out. So my number one recommendation when parents ask me about what sport should their kids play, and I'll be working out at the YMCA and I'll have kids come up to me and ask me if I'm on the football team and all that stuff. And I'm always like, that's awesome. You guys are in here and working out. And I ask them what sports they play. And I always tell them, you should be trying a ton of different sports. You're in 6th, 7th grade, play basketball, football, whatever, ice hockey, whatever you want to do. You should try everything out, and you have that opportunity when you're young. And there's so many guys. And if you look at Penn State recruiting, how many times do you hear about a story of, we just offered this kid and he just started playing football 6 months ago? So it's not like it's impossible then to get a scholarship just because you started, in 8th grade or 9th grade. I don't think it has that much of an effect. If you're good enough to get to a Penn State or wherever you're trying to go, whether it's, D2 or wherever you're kind of destined to go, I don't think playing and training for that specific sport when you were 7 and 8 and 9 years old is really going to benefit you. I think it actually does the opposite. I think it burns you out. But we're going to continue to see more and more of this, especially because parents are wanting their kids to be the next Caleb Williams, that type of thing. It's even more lucrative now with NIL, and now NIL leaking into high school. It's right at parents' fingertips, and I feel like that's kind of the driving factor. I keep saying the parents.
Yeah,
we know how that is. It's not normally the kid, especially a high schooler. They don't know any better. I mean, they're still young kids, and it's the parents that are kind of forcing their kids into some of the things that they don't want to do. So that'd be my number one recommendation, is let your kids try, a couple different sports, any sport they want to.
Yeah, and I would agree with you, and I think that's in the overwhelming majority of cases. What I will say is, listen, there are the exceptions that prove the rule, right? And I probably too often go to David Taylor when we get into these conversations, but David, at a very early age, developed like just a true love and passion for wrestling. Obviously has a skill set to go with it. But when you talk to David, even he says, he really, it was him at age 7 that was driven to, he's like, man, this is what I love to do. That is so much the exception. And I mean, David will tell you that the number of kids that he traveled with early in his life that didn't make it to high school because they're like, all right, this is enough. And it's hard to know if it's truly coming from within your kid. Like, you've really got to have that connection. Like my kiddo, who is fine. I'm not disparaging him. He's not a great athlete. He's 8. He shouldn't be a great athlete.
I was going to say this. I was on the B team up until 12, 13 U. I wasn't even on the A team. And then, very quickly I had D1 offers 2 years later. So that development from that 12 to like 15 area, even older, 12 to, 16, 17, so much can change. So I think people should not at all get wrapped up in where they're at or where their kids are at, at that young of an age. I think people kind of hyper focus on it, and it's like, let him grow a little bit, let him be a kid, get comfortable in his body.
Amen. And let them try different things. So he now he's asking about, hey, can I do a travel team for baseball? And it's like, well, no, you can't, not at this age for sure, and probably not period. And really not because we have anything against travel teams. It's just with neither of us right now, with our schedules and what we're committed to, there's just no way we could pull it off financially or time-wise. And so it's just not an option, number one. But number two is I'm not exactly sure where his interest is coming from at the moment, but it's not because he only wants to do baseball. I mean, every day we're asking about a new sport. He wants to try fencing. He wants to try karate. He loves wrestling. He wants to try tackle football now. We're going to hold off on that for a little while. He wants to try golf, which, again, yep. We'll give a month here to that, a month there to that, and we'll keep, we can keep trying different things. But so, I mean, people will point to the exceptions, and this is where I do think some parents get caught up. It's like, well, Earl Woods, had Tiger out on the golf course and kept him out there for hours from the time he was 4 on. It's like, okay. I mean, Tiger Woods is a once in a generational talent. The chances of your kid, and I'm not saying anybody's kid, maybe your kid is that exception, right? But Tiger Woods, Serena Williams, David Taylor, these are the exceptions that prove the rule. Are there kids that can play the piano like concertos at age 4, and they have a gift and they have a love for it, and by God, that's their life's path? Yes. The overwhelming, 99.9% of the kids are not that, and are going to benefit greatly. And even the David Taylors and the Serena Williams benefit, and Tiger Woods benefit from, okay, let's do golf. That's your passion. But let's try this over here. Let's do that. Let's spend a little downtime doing some other activities. Not even, doesn't have to be sports related, but, I think you need again, if you recognize that you have, somebody that is a prodigy, again, God bless you. That's fantastic. By all means, you have somebody that has both a very unique gift and passion at an early age. Yes, go ahead and develop that by all means. But recognize that in all likelihood, the overwhelming majority of us are or have kids who are average. I think it's okay. I think it's all right. Average of kids. And as you said, maybe they'll develop, but I think let them explore all of their passions. Let them have the downtime to be with friends, to meet new friends, all of that. I think that the person's overall point, I actually would agree with this person that was saying that they think travel, I'm overstating it slightly, but he thought travel teams are basically evil and unhealthy for kids. I do, and this is just my opinion, not saying you're an awful parent, by the way, if you're doing it. Just my opinion is, don't do that stuff at the very least until middle school. I would say, I really think you're better off not doing it. Now, can you go to, do I think there's benefit in going to camps, in traveling to get some competition and experience? Absolutely, by all means. But, when I'm thinking of travel teams anyway, I'm talking about like the year-round commitment, and like that is kind of your life and your focus. I think generally that's unhealthy. Are there exceptions? Yep. And again, if you have a kid who, like, it is truly the kid that is like, no, this is what I want to do. I love doing this. Man, yes, I'm not telling you don't allow your kid to chase those dreams. You have a Taylor Swift. Nope, we're not moving to Nashville. You just got to play in the local area here in Pittsburgh. Oh, no. Okay. If you have Taylor Swift as a daughter, go ahead and cultivate that dream. Yes.
Yeah.
But
if you look at it,
not many have Taylor Swift as a daughter.
You're absolutely right. I think Ian Eagle has his son he's doing a lot of NBA basketball. He's doing the Masters, I think, too. I forget it. I think it's Ian. I think his son's name is Ian. He's like third. I don't know. He's like mid-20s, but he is absolutely bred to be a broadcaster.
Yes,
and obviously his dad did it for a while. I think it's Ian Eagle. I might be wrong, but it's one of the legendary broadcasters. And he's kind of coming in and taking over. And so, yeah, some kids are just bred to play the sport. I mean, you look at Shedeur Sanders. Bronny James isn't having as much success on the court, but, obviously we actually just had an event last night with LeVar and Spice, put on by Omar Easy, who's heading up the Brand Academy. That's this new thing that's actually was from Wally Triplett. It was a donation made in his name. Basically, I think it was around $5 million, and it was to help student athletes in NIL education, help them further, their business acumen, their brands, and really try to develop a place where student athletes at Penn State can come and create something and create their brand. So it was really cool to hear them talk last night and get kind of that perspective. And then I ended up going over. We went into Lash. Me, Spice, and Devon are watching film for like 3 hours till midnight. It Lash. That dude, Spice Adams. He's the character that he is. I've never gotten to meet him before.
Yeah.
And he is seriously the character that you see on Instagram. He's hilarious. But he was leaving at like 6 a.m. for a flight, and this dude was watching film until like midnight, and his wife was calling him. It was hilarious, man. It was a good time. But yeah, man, it's cool to get around those guys. But sorry, I kind of got off track there. I just wanted to share that. It was really cool.
Yeah.
I had met LeVar like once, but like seeing all these like Joe Paterno era guys, and they're starting to come back around a little bit more. It's fun to interact with them because I feel like we're not educated enough. These newer Penn State athletes on what Penn State was like. What did Joe Paterno mean, and what did all those guys like? They understand that, so it's nice to get their perspective.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, the football players, and not at all calling any of me or my teammates dumb by any stretch, but those Joe Paterno guys that were here in like the 90s, early 2000s, they are some smart cats, man. I mean, he was recruiting some high some high-level dudes, not only on the field, but like these dudes went out and achieved some stuff.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see. Obviously, I know you were around for all of that, but it's fun for me to see as a younger kid. Like, okay, this is how it used to be. This was Penn State, and to be educated, it's fun. It's something I enjoy.
Yeah, no, and I think that impact, right, like that's the whole goal, I think, for coaches is you want to make a positive impact on the kids on your team, and then have them go out and make a positive impact on society. And I think that is, to me, the lasting legacy of Joe Paterno, and I think of Penn State. I mean, I think a lot of these guys that you're talking about on the team now, and yourself, you're going to go on and have success in all of these different endeavors. And I think, part of it is because of the experience you had here at Penn State and the lessons learned. Obviously, goes back to high school, goes back to your family. And I mean, there's a lot of influences that affect how people turn out. But I do think in those formative years of college where you're getting that first taste of freedom, you're really testing the boundaries in some new ways, and expanding your horizons in some new ways. How that's handled and the guidance you're getting there is important and significant. And I do think it speaks volumes. Joe Paterno's legacy, I think when you look at the group, and I know Bill O'Brien was just here for a couple of years, I think when you look at the impact that those guys certainly had here at Penn State, but you start to see some of the success stories with what they're doing with their lives. And, already we're seeing a lot of guys under James Franklin that are going out and making a positive impact in society too. That's the bigger deal than the wins and losses at the end of the day.
You're absolutely right, man. Well, Jeff, we got about 20 minutes left, and I actually had something I was hoping to pull up. I hope you're cool with this.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm improving here, but a friend of the show, Jim Galante at Keystone Sports Network, I do a Sunday show with him every week, and it was originally Jeff's spot. And Jeff is obviously a very busy man, and I started out just doing, I think, just a quarter or maybe a half because it's split up into 4 quarters for the show, and very quickly ended up taking over the whole show. Jeff gave me the spot, and that's kind of how I got started in my broadcast podcast career here. But saying all that to say, last week's show, Jim had me prepare my 12 most critical guys for the Penn State football season for 2024. And I figured we're headed into blue and white here. It's the Thursday show. So I was going to list it off. We can talk about each guy real quick. We got about 20 minutes. So first off, my number 12 most critical player for Penn State football in 2024 was Khalil Dinkins. Theo Johnson is obviously headed off to the NFL, and he's going to have a great career. Tyler Warren gets to step up into that tight end number 1 slot. He always talks about it. He would always tell me, I love Theo, I love Brenton, but I want a little bit of time on that Jumbotron because they only put up 1 tight end, and Theo and Brenton were always the number 1 ahead of Tyler. And we know they were all interchangeable. They were all fantastic, but he won a little number 1 tight end spot on the Jumbotron. So now he gets that this year.
He's going to get it in a big way.
Oh, he is going to handle the load. I mean, he's going to be helping Drew Aller a lot. And that's going to be good. I'll get to him in a minute. We're going to get there. But knowing how much Penn State loves those 2 tight end sets, when we get down on 4th and 1, when we get down on the goal line and we bring out those 3 running back with me, sometimes it's a tight end formation where we're just getting down there and we're digging people out and we're running the ball. That number 2 tight end is extremely important. And it's, Tyler Warren is a fantastic blocker. We've seen him a couple times put dudes on the sideline. If you think back to Nick Singleton's, it wasn't actually a run. It was the quick pass at Michigan State where they hit him out in the flat and he took it, 60, 70 yards. And if you watch the All 22 film, Tyler Warren takes his man and buries him into the sidelines. So that's the type of blocking they were getting from their number 2 guy. And Theo was a great blocker. I'm excited to see how Khalil Dinkins can step up. He had a couple touchdowns last year, but didn't have a huge role in the blocking game. Just should be interesting. I think blue and white will be a good time because he will be one of the starting tight ends, I presume, for one of the other teams, the one that Tyler isn't starting on. Probably the white team is where Khalil will start. So we'll see a lot of work with him and Bo, I'm guessing. Should be fun.
Yeah.
And it's going to be Coach Franklin said it's going to be a competitive game. Last year, it was split up 1s and 3s versus 2s and 4s on the depth chart.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot more a mixture of 1s, a mixture of 2s. And then as we get deeper, we'll see the younger cats, the freshmen, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So that should be really good. Getting into and it just stop me at all, but I'll just keep
go.
rolling if you have anything
Let's do it.
specific to say. But so my number 11 most important or critical person for the Penn State football team in 2024 is Coach Marcus Hagans, wide receivers coach. I think he has a lot on his plate, man. It is time for these wide receivers to show up, just to be frank. It definitely it sucked last year when after West Virginia you felt like Keandre Lambert-Smith was going to be the guy and be maybe a Bolitnikoff award winner type guy after that game, and it just kind of fell off. And he had a couple pops throughout the season, but it was just difficult. And Trey Wallace was hurt. Obviously a couple transfers didn't really work out all the way that we thought. So I think some of that scrutiny that's on Drew Aller, that's on the wide receivers too. They were not able to really help him out and create a lot of separation for him, go make plays for him. The stuff that, Kyle McCord or JJ McCarthy had, where they had guys making plays, helping them out. I don't think Drew Aller had a lot of that outside of Tyler Warren and Theo Johnson.
Yeah, and I think the injury affected that offense probably more than it should have, but I really think if Trey Wallace had stayed healthy, I think that offense would have looked differently and would have progressed much better throughout the season. I just think his injury, and again, it shouldn't have that type of an impact. I'll be the first to agree with anybody that says, come on, but it did. And I don't think anybody was comfortable in their role moving up, basically through the rotation there, and I never really got comfortable. And I do think, the receiving corps as a whole, their development is obviously crucial this season, as is the schemes. But I think Fleming's impact, and not just catching the ball, I mean, that, again, is an important component, but I think the mentality with which he approaches the wide receiver position, I think is going to benefit that core as a whole. But they need some of these other guys to step up. And in particular, I think Saunders and Evans, Amari Evans and Caden Saunders are the two guys that, to me, the three starters, I think, are pretty well set. I think you're looking to get some production, like some big play opportunities from those two. I think if you can get that and those other the three presumed starters do what you think they're going to do, I think Penn State is going to be in really, really good shape in the upcoming season.
No doubt. And I think that's on Coach Hagans to get those guys ready. So that's why I put him at number 11. Moving on to number 10, most important player for Penn State football in 2024, I have Jalen Reed. Had a fantastic third year back there at safety. Him and KJ Winston back there, they were handling it. It was reminding me a little bit of Jaquan Brisker and Jair Brown combo. I mean, to have two safeties back there that have that thing on lock is really nice. Had Zaki as the third, and Keaton Ellis, but Zaki was kind of that third safety that they were working in.
Yep.
And we know Zaki Wheatley is an absolute ball hawk. It is really difficult to keep him off the field. So change up the defense a little bit. Abdul comes down to DN. Now you're running a 4-2 defense, and now Jalen Reed looks like the main candidate to come in and play that nickel position. And it helps the defense out a lot, because when you put Jalen Reed in that nickel position, that nickel cornerback position, they call the lion for Penn State, it allows Zaki now to slide in. So now you have Zaki, who's a ball hawk back there, and Kevin Winston, who's a ball hawk in his own right, but more the guy that's flying around, making tackles at the line of scrimmage, creating havoc. So you get those three guys all on the field at once. I am really excited to see how that kind of goes together. I don't know if they're all going to be on the same team for blue and white, but I think getting those three guys on the field all at once was a big win for Penn State to figure that out. I think you were just losing a lot with Zaki Wheatley on the bench. I think that's someone who could start for a plethora of other high-level teams. So that's why I put Jalen Reed at number 10. He's going to have to adapt a little bit. It's going to be a new position, but I think he's going to get moved around a lot. I think Coach Tom Allen is going to have some fun with him. He's a dynamic player. that can help you out, can save you. Maybe we see Jay Reed in a Palomalu-esque type of thing where he can bounce around a little bit. He's obviously a great blitzer. He's a very he's built, he's thick, and so I'm excited to see how we kind of utilize him. But my number 9 most important critical player for this Penn State football team in 2024 is Abdul Carter. And I think this is someone where if he's at linebacker, he's obviously high up on the list, but I don't think there's as much of a question mark about his production and kind of what he's going to do. That pops up when you make that transition to DN, and I'm sure some of it was influenced by Micah a little bit, where he's kind of saw how his career went, and Micah is going to end up making a ton more money because of his transition.
Yeah.
And Abdul is very similar when you look at that insane like closing speed and just that natural ability to just find the ball and go track down someone. Abdul has that same ability that Micah has, so I understand why he wanted to make that transition. And he's a bigger kid, and Abdul's put on some weight. So I think he has the ability to play that position, but it's just going to be a couple things. Can he take on those pulling guards? Is he going to be able to line up against a tackle for 60 snaps and last and be able to, take on that run game? Is he learning how to set up pass rush moves, that type of thing? So I'm very curious to see how Abdul's going to look this spring game. I think that's where a lot of eyes are going to be.
Oh, yeah.
And spoke to a little bit earlier about Anthony Donka and couple other guys in company, Nolan Rucci. It should be fun to see those ends versus those tackles in this spring game. So that's something I'm looking at. Continuing on with the linebackers here, though, my number 8 most critical player for Penn State football in 2024 is Tony Rojas. And we were talking about Tony a little bit earlier. Kid had a ton of success in high school. Well, I think it was a Gatorade Player of the Year for Virginia, and he was actually a running back, and came into Manny Diaz defense, was behind a couple guys, got to learn from Curtis, Kobe, obviously a veteran linebacker group, and got some playing time earlier on. And then when you saw him a little bit later in the season, it was like, okay, this kid is really on. Like, he made some plays earlier on, when he was getting in, when there was some blowouts. But now he's hopping in Maryland, and he's had that sack fumble, getting an interception. I mean, you could tell he's a guy that creates splash plays, and I think it gets the fan base excited, especially when you see Curtis Jacobs moving on, Abdul stepping down to DN. You need someone to step up at that linebacker position. I mean, we're LBU. We said we know what we have with Kobe King. We know what we're getting. That's going to be a solid middle linebacker. Yep. But I want that dynamic linebacker next to him that can make some plays, make something happen. So I think that jump from year 1 to year 2, it's going to be really important for Tony Rojas. And, we were talking about earlier, those expectations, social media does, how did that stuff factors in now? It was easy when he was a freshman because it was there was not a lot of pressure, not a lot of expectations. Well, now, Tony, you're the dude, man. It's on you. You need to essentially lead this defense, so to speak. And you have a lot of help. Jalen Reed, KJ Winston, Kobe next to you. You have some fantastic edge rushers, but you're that guy in the middle of the defense that James Franklin is counting on when it's crunch time to make a play. Yeah. So I'm excited to see how Tony can step up to the plate. But moving on here to number 7, most important player for Penn State football in 2024, I have Drew Aller. I put him at
7. I
have him down at 7. See, some people say it's a little controversial, but my take on this, and I've been doing a lot of film study recently. I did a Olu Fashanu breakdown, and then Caden Wallace, and then just finished the Chop Robinson one today. Those will all be out on my YouTube if anybody wants to take a look. My biggest takeaway with Drew was he wasn't getting helped enough. I feel like it was just, especially in that Michigan and Ohio State game, I feel like there was times where you could tell the wide receivers were not in the right place at the right time, kind of wrong routes. He seemed like he wasn't able to really trust anybody. And then, like I said earlier, you saw on the flip side, Marvin Harrison making incredible plays for Kyle McCord, somewhat bailing him out in some situations, but going up for his QB and doing that type of stuff. You didn't really see that for Drew Aller. I mean, this is someone, he took care of the ball all year, only a couple interceptions to, I think, 25, 26 touchdowns. That's something that you can build off of really, really well. When you have a young quarterback that's taking care of the ball and has that good touchdown to turnover ratio, it gets me excited. But the reason I have him at 7 and not 1 or 2 is because I think it's more on other people to help Drew Aller out. I mean, he's the quarterback, but he can't do this stuff alone. It's going to be, is he going to have the tackle protection that he had last year? Can these wide receivers now step up and make a little bit of a difference and help Tyler Warren out, help these running backs out? Can the running backs take some pressure off Drew by keeping the run game going and not getting one-dimensional? So I think there's a lot of things that go into why I put him at 7. But I believe he's kind of doing everything right. I think he just needs a little bit more help, and I might be in the minority with that take, but I think sometimes we ask a little bit too much of him. I think he's taking care of the ball. He's distributing it well, but it's time for the offensive coordinator to help him out too, which I might get to in a second here. But so moving on to number 6. My number 6 most important Penn State football player for 2024 is Drew Shelton.
Yep, and he's going to have to step up in a big way. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, no doubt, man. It's, filling in for Olu Fashanu and also not having a spring ball. I think him getting hurt, he had to have that shoulder surgery. It's difficult to come back from that and not have these critical months of where he didn't play all the time this past season. So it's not like he has a ton of wear and tear. So I think the spring ball would have been really important for him.
Yeah.
But, he is someone who came in freshman year when Olu got hurt in 2022, and he handled that left tackle position as a true freshman, going against some good edge rushers, and he really held his own. So he is absolutely someone that is proven. But now it's kind of similar to some other guys, and I think this is a common theme for many of the guys this year. It's kind of a prove-it year for a lot of these dudes, where it's, hey, can you make that next step? Yeah, you contributed as a freshman, as a sophomore, but can you take that next step to now be a star for this team and someone that we can rely on week in and week out? So that's kind of what I'm looking for out of Drew Shelton, and that's going to be really important for Drew Aller's progression as the season goes on. Moving on to number 5, most important player for the Penn State football season in 2024, I have Nick Singleton. Spoiler alert, I do not have Katron Allen on this list because I feel like we know what we get with Katron Allen. He is going to come in, give us those hard runs. He'll pop one for 10 or 15, 20 yards every once in a while, but he's going to come in and chug away those 6-7 yard runs for us, and he's going to be a tough runner. So that we kind of know what we get with him. With Nick Singleton, looking back to his freshman year, he was popping off those big runs against Ohio, against Auburn. I mean, it kind of felt like all year, Indiana, he was balling. So kind of when he had a little bit of that sophomore slump, everybody was like, what's going on? Where is Nick Singleton? And I don't think it was, I don't think it was all on him. I think there was a mixture of the offensive play calling not being beneficial to him, getting him in space. I think we saw when Ty Howe and Coach Sider took over, not as much as Andy Kotonicki, I think, is going to do, but there was more getting creative, getting these players in space. Let's get Nick Singleton on the edge, and they gave him a quick screen, had Tyler Warren blocking for him, and he took off against Michigan State for 60 yards. So I think that's the type of stuff and the type of situations we're going to see Nick Singleton get put in this year. And I'm really excited to see how he's going to fare in this Kotonicki offense. But he needs to continue to step up and once again, help out Drew Aller. But I think that's going to be big on whether Nick Singleton is regarded as one of the best running backs in college football, like we know he can be, or is he going to kind of stay where he's at, where it's even kind of a question, is Katron the number one guy? So I'm excited to see that. Moving on to number 4, most important Penn State football player for 2024, I have denied Dennis Sutton. Once again, I think another case of a player headed into his second or third year where it's prove yourself. Denai has had a fantastic career here so far. He won us a couple of the UMass game, sack fumble right at the end. He's had a huge impact, but he was that number 3, that number 4 guy coming off the edge. He had the luxury of people worrying about Chop and Adisa Isaac. And now it's, hey, Denai, you're the number 1 guy. I mean, you have a duel across from you, and that's going to help. It absolutely is. If you didn't have that, you see kind of a more unexperienced younger guy head into that second defensive end role. But it's his job. It's his job to be that elite defender on this defensive line. And it's now, are you going to make that jump to being a top 5 defensive lineman in college football? Or are you just going to be a pretty good one? So I think that's where Denai is at, where he's being challenged. And I know he has that motor. He has that want and ability to be a top 5 defensive lineman. Let's see if he can put it all together. So I'm really excited to see Denai on this new look defense. Moving on to number 3 most critical player for Penn State football in 2024, I have KJ Winston. We were talking about him a little bit earlier on the show. He is a absolute stud back there. Started to kind of work into the rotation late freshman year with a stacked safety room. Jair Brown left, and then you're looking at Kevin Winston Jr., Jalen Reed, Zakee Wheatley. It's kind of who's going to play. Obviously, we talked about earlier, Jalen Reed's going to play in that nickel cornerback position. KJ Winston was an absolute baller this past year. They couldn't not start him. He gave him, there was any reason why not to do it. He was a younger kid. The other guys were senior, but he was just making plays, and these coaches were noticing it, man. So shout out to KJ Winston. I think he's going to be a great baller.
Got about 30 seconds.
All right, my fault. Number 2,
you're good.
Number 2, Tyler Warren, a safety blanket for Drew Aller. That's going to be huge. He's going to have to rely on Tyler Warren.
He is going to have a monster year.
He is. And I think this is where Tyler Warren can go, where he could have left last year and been, this past right now and been a later round pick. He's going to probably come back and be day 1, maybe day 2 guy and be a baller. My number 1 most important person for Penn State football in 2024, Andy Kotonicki. We haven't had an offensive coordinator since Joe Moorhead that was this creative. We need that again. I think that's what we're going to get from Andy Kotonicki, and he is going to put Drew Aller in good positions. That's how I see it. I'm excited to see it this Saturday.
I think it is going to be a whole lot of fun to watch all throughout the upcoming season. Landon, thank you. Thank you for the list. Thanks for filling in for the dear Goon. Goon, we hope you're better. Folks, have a great weekend. We'll talk to you Monday. Until then, be good and be safe.
Coast into fall with a new Kia from Lion Country Kia. Right now, get a 24 Kia Seltos for 5.25% APR for up to 48 months. A new Sportage plug-in hybrid at 0.9% APR. Check out our 23 Sorrento hybrid for as low as 4.5% APR. And don't forget, all 2023 and 2024 Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Stop in and meet with one of our sales experts today and coast into fall at Lion Country Kia. We want to see you in a Kia.
Since retiring, I have spent my time searching the countryside for the hottest wings in America. I always seem to end up disappointed. You call these hot? Back off, Luigi.
Mamma mia.
Your hands, busboy. Your wings suck. I knew I should have stuck with Quaker Steak's triple atomic wings. You think I'm tough enough?
The Center Hall Farm Store has been serving Center County and beyond for well over a half century. A small family business, the Center Hall Farm Store specializes in animal nutrition and manufactures its feed fresh using local ingredients. Get the best in horse, cow, pig, chicken, and bird feeds. If you're not already a customer, stop in and see why so many of your neighbors are. The Center Hall Farm Store at 110 West Allison Street in Center Hall, or call us at 814-364-1393.
Sioka Toyota of Williamsport invites you to stop in today or check us out online. We have the smart path to your next Toyota, like the all-new Crown, BZ4X, the all-new Grand Highlander, Corolla Cross Hybrids, Sequoias, and more. Over 100 new Toyotas here and on the way. Don't make a $1,000 mistake. Choose Sioka Toyota of Williamsport and see the Sioka dealership's difference. Buy or reserve yours today and see for yourself why Sioka Toyota is the only stop you need for your next new car. Sioka Toyota, it just feels right.
Ready to be part of something bigger? Come pave the road to success at Glen O'Habaker and discover a career where your hard work and determination can build a bigger, better future. Our team believes we can build a stronger future together. Join us at Glen O'Habaker, where we value teamwork on the field and on the job. Go to GOHcareers.com to apply. GOHcareers.com. And best of luck to all the Center County sports teams all season long from everyone at Glen O'Habaker.
With a Timber Kids savings account, you can start to save money, earn prizes, and teach your kids the value of savings. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Building futures is what we do at TFCU.
You really need to belong to a credit union. You belong at TFCU, Timberland Federal Credit Union, a credit union you can grow with.
The Goon and